What's up, everyone, and welcome to Hungover Podcast, episode 157. We haven't done this in such a long time, and that's because Yvonne and I have been incredibly busy. But we still think about this podcast every single week as we try to muster up enough energy after our incredibly draining jobs to do a podcast for you all. We're going to be doing something a little different due to some fan feedback from one of our newest subscribers, Why Kill Will. He wants us to put the topic of the show in the beginning of the podcast, and then we have our witty banter and nonsense where we break the ice and, enjoy ourselves and talk about what we've been doing in the end of the podcast. So we're going to go ahead and try that right now. Editor, do your magic. Boom! We're here to talk about Activision Blizzard and everything that's been going on with one of the largest game publishers and game developers around. They make Call of Duty, they make Overwatch, World of Warcraft, whatever else Activision makes. I don't really know what they make. Tony Hawk. They had Destiny for a while, but no longer do they publish Destiny. Their partnership with Bungie is over, so Bungie, I believe, owns and publishes Destiny on their own. I don't know I have no idea what's going on with Destiny 2 nowadays, but I know Activision is no longer involved. And there's been a recent lawsuit that's been ongoing for pretty much, I would say, for the past 3 or 4 months. The state of California is representing the people and suing Activision Blizzard. Is it a suing?
Yes,
lawsuit?
They filed a lawsuit against. So
for mistreatment of female coworkers and of course unfair treatment when it comes to salaries and things like that, and of course
discrimination.
There's a whole bunch of charges against the people on the top, the company, Activision Blizzard as a whole.
10 violations of state employment law that were preceded by a 2-year investigation of the company's workplace practices. So It's not Johnny come lately, or is it?
Oh God. Yeah, so we wanted to talk a little bit about it and what you can do to maybe join in on the boycott, or if it even makes a difference. What should you do as a consumer of video games, or what are your options, or how you can pay attention to this lawsuit? What could be the possible outcomes? We wanted to talk a little bit about that and how it should or should not affect you as a consumer of video games. They're one of the biggest, again, publishers. They have the best-selling game every single year, Call of Duty. Should you be purchasing Call of Duty, Yvonne? I think we can talk about that a little later. Do you want to, talk about a little bit of the details of this lawsuit? Or
what I want to drill down into is the ideas that you were just talking about in terms of boycotting. What is our consumer response? Because if you're listening to this podcast, if you're new, hello and welcome. If you've been listening for a long time, then you will know that both of us love Overwatch. We've played it since it came out. And it's a struggle for me, for instance, for somebody who has been so invested in Blizzard as a company for such a long time. What do I do now? What was so I'm interested in drilling into those topics, and hopefully we can kind of I haven't really fully formulated an opinion before coming into this conversation. A lot of which is due. Yeah, a lot of which is due to the fact that I have been paying more attention to other stories in the news rather than this one. Not by choice, just by happenstance of the main news outlets that I go to, like NPR, don't cover this story. So, or haven't really covered this story in the same way that a lot of other news outlets have. So, the things that have been brought is like 10 violations of employment law, focusing in on the on gender and some racial disparities, especially for African. There's a sighting of like an African American woman who was a contract worker and wasn't brought in to be a full-time salary employee for 2 years, while white male employees that were hired after her were brought in to be salaried employees much sooner. Sweet. So there's layered dynamics, and intersectional feminism is going to be key to the understanding of everybody working together. But I think, in general, you can boil it down to there was a culture of male-dominated culture in terms of making video games, and even though the video game player pool has diversified, I would say, tremendously from its origins, the staff at Blizzard Activision was still only 20% female, and they were being discriminated against for pregnancy. They were discriminated against for, in terms of job openings, salary, along many different lines. The actual lawsuit is available for people who want to read it. It has some pretty harrowing details when it gets to like the investigation, what conclusions they have reached from their investigation, and some of the examples from there. I know Julien and I were talking about it before we started this podcast, and it was just it's pretty heavy topic. And I think that the things to focus in on are some of the things that grabbed headlines, of course, are the big sexual harassment and casual rape jokes, and the just kind of blatant disregard for what should be normalized workplace safety standards for in terms of emotional and social safety of everybody feeling safe in a workplace, and those things kind of being ignored, thrown out the window, or only gently rebuffed. There was one person who was actually named. The lawsuit isn't against them. The lawsuit, of course, is against Activision Blizzard, but there's one person whose actions were so disgusting that he was actually named in the lawsuit. And he would repeatedly get drunk, hit on women, like grope them in one case, in one reported case. Who knows what actually happened. That was cited in the lawsuit. So,
right, and that's something to say, like, these are all just the reported cases. There could be a multitude of different things that happened that are going not reported in this 2-year investigation. So, and typically these things, more often than not, there are a lot more cases that were not reported that might be a little more minor in severity, but they are certainly, they shouldn't have happened, or in our opinion, right. In my opinion, they probably shouldn't have happened, right? I
think we can all agree that it shouldn't have happened. But the response to that kind of action by that guy, his name is Alex. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm going to skip over that. But J. Allen Brack, the president, did know about it, spoke to him, but that was all of the action that happened. At least from the investigation that they conducted, that it was only like a verbal reprimand and nothing actually happened. He was told to be less, he was getting too friendly with the female employees at like BlizzCon and other holiday or like Blizzard events. So it's clearly part of the working culture. It clearly didn't get addressed in a way that was legally acceptable because a lawsuit was filed. So I guess, Julien, what was your initial reaction? I mean, this story has been breaking over the course of like a month and a half, I'd say, probably.
Yeah.
So On August 3rd, a shareholder filed a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard, alleging that the company's negligent leadership contributed to the cycle of bad press and marketplace reaction, and a significant drop in the company's share price. So this seems like it will be an ongoing process of lawsuits and what will happen furthermore. That's a big class action lawsuit that will happen from the shareholders. But what was your initial reaction?
I mean, obviously, I was guess like more, not, unfortunately not like super shocked, because I mean, we've been it's been coming out more and more that there's just unfair work practices, and more on the side of a video game crunch time, and like just really high pressure work environments. But just knowing the pool of people, just on a tangential side, like I know how people can be online in online video games, and typically the people who are making video games also play video games, right? That has to be true, right? So if you're just pulling from a pool of people that on average are horrible people, like on Xbox Live, or are just willing to say whatever the fuck they want, and just to anyone online, right? People say some horrible things online in these video games, and I know a lot of them are just like 14-year-old boys venting whatever repressed anger they have inside. Those people end up growing up to work at these big companies sometimes, so it's not necessarily so much of a surprise that I felt, but I guess it's more surprising that they have such in detail evidence, and that they can actually go and I say they, I mean the state of California, can actually file such a large lawsuit with actually incriminating evidence that I'm I'm happy that these things can be brought to light, and I hope justice can be served. But of course, I'm just on the side of the California state, right? Like, we only see that side. I know they're suing the entire company, but obviously there are people within this company that have nothing to do with this lawsuit. They're just video game developers that love video games and want to make them, and happen to work for Activision Blizzard. So I think that's where the moral choice to boycott Call of Duty and Blizzard and whatever, you can sort of make an argument against that. Obviously the boycott would be, I'm not going to purchase Call of Duty until whatever your vision of justice is served, right? Whatever you think is going to happen in this lawsuit, right? Like, Activision gets sued for a large sum of money, and they change the higher ups and the structure of the company, then I'll buy a Call of Duty. But also there are people who are completely innocent in this, and they worked on Call of Duty or Overwatch or whatever game you like to play, and they deserve to be supported as well. So I think there's sort of a choice to be made there. And I was, again, I was surprised about this, but also it's, you can make assumptions about how it could have gone down, and based on the people who play video games typically on average. So
that it is a question of what is what is the reflexive property there, right? Because the community that we saw playing Call of Duty did tend to be broier, male dominated,
the worst.
And the idea of the frat boy culture that was central to this laissez-faire attitude towards sexual harassment being so central in the Blizzard Activision uh, workforce, then and especially at the higher up level, and then you turn around and you look at the people playing the games. Is there a connection there in like the kind of people that are making that game will make a game that appeals to those kinds of that kind of audience, or is it that kind of audience gravitates to like a shooter game that has high intensity, impact, action, etc.? Like, I think you look at the difference between Destiny and Call of Duty, and I don't know. The people that I know who played Destiny, they weren't like as bro-y as the people who I knew who enjoyed Call of Duty. So I'm just wondering, like, and essentially, you know, Destiny came out of Bungie, which had some Microsoft, then it was with Activision Blizzard, and then it's on its own. Like, it has this legacy of being in the different places, but it's interesting to me. I wonder if the division between Bungie and Activision Blizzard was that also connected to that kind of working culture, since their audience seemed to be a little different. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the answer to that is.
I don't know either. I think I guess it just, it's so baffling to me that such a large company, and maybe this should be obvious based on how companies are run in America, but I don't know. Like, my vision of a large corporation is that, which Activision Blizzard is, you know, it employs, I assume, over 1,000 people. I don't know how many people work, probably like 5,000 people. There have to be a lot of people that work for them, and they have a huge headquarters, I assume, you know, a big office building. You know, that type of company, in my vision, you know, it's not necessarily the greatest place to work in, but it should have some sort of structure, and there should be practices, like a very professional working environment. This is just like your standard cubicle type company. People go to work, they get promoted, that type of stuff. But when your company is run by people who are, maybe, I guess, it seems like, are more childish and immature, then you're going to have this type of, you know, mistreatment of women, and you know, like, you can just be a complete piece of shit in many situations that are cited in this lawsuit, that you know, you're just gonna have that sort of, if that's coming from the people who are on the top, then like the whole structure is just tainted, and people are gonna feel like they can do whatever they want in the company, as opposed to, I don't know, I feel like a large corporation like Microsoft probably has a more rigid professional setting where there are repercussions to your actions in the professional setting, right? That, like, it's very straightforward, and you do what you do, or you do your job.
I will say, working for now a huge corporation,
right,
and being less in the indie sphere of things, I do feel the presence of an HR and that kind of bureaucracy a lot more than I did with indie films.
And Mickey Mouse, you know, Mickey Mouse is always watching you.
Yes.
But yeah, no, exactly. So, and you're just, I mean, I don't know exactly your project that you're working on, but it seems to be like, it's not like you're in the Disney headquarters every day, right? You're on set, and you guys are completely off site of you know, the main Disney office, right? I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, due to the filming location.
Right. But so, and you even feel that there.
The decisions are a lot of, like, creative decisions are funneled through a hierarchy of Disney voices.
Right, because Disney has some, you know, a professional structure, I assume. I don't know anything about how Disney is run, but I would assume it's run with a very, you know, straight mindset, that, you know, the vision of Mickey
What do you mean
Mouse
straight
is
mindset?
I mean a very, Mickey Mouse gets what he fucking wants. So if that's the
Yeah.
case, and the people on top of Activision run their company the same way, and they are all right with touching women inappropriately, that's going to be how their entire company is run. Or at least men are going to feel free to do, in the case of this guy, Alex, last name that we can't pronounce, he was probably encouraged to do what he is cited of doing. So that's where this new J. Allen Brack stepping down becomes, like a big deal, because he was only the president since 2018, so not that long. And since then, since 2018, like I was telling you earlier, Blizzard has only just supported their games. They haven't released anything really new, in my opinion, aside from like Hearthstone packs or maybe a new level in Overwatch. I don't even remember. But they haven't released anything new, or worth oh my god, there's a cat on the podcast. Or anything worth noting since Overwatch was released, in my opinion. So he stepped down, and now Jen O'Neill and Mike Ybarra are co-leaders of the studio, which is pretty cool. I don't know. In your opinion, do you think there should be two people on top that have the same amount of power in a company? Because that's not very common.
We could have three. Call it a triumvirate. Bring back. Bring that back.
Do you think that two people with that much power is more responsible than one? Or do you think there would be infighting or miscommunication, perhaps?
I think it really depends on what their interaction is. I always find that the more people are at... I don't like structures where there's one person at the top and then...
all the power.
Yeah, because there's very little that you can do to affect that person's vision in positive or negative ways. So for instance, we look at Steve Jobs running Apple, right?
Yeah.
Created it into this huge brand, did an amazing job of marketing, was ferociously neurotic about how his products were created and how they were marketed, and that's great. The reflexive side is you have this one guy who is facing down a culture that is below him, that has been allowed to creep into every asset, every facet of their workplace, and he's unable to step out of that. Whereas maybe with two people, you can have, especially this is a strange dynamic, but I don't think it's actually that strange. Oftentimes, after companies or organizations are put in moral crises, they will hire a woman to kind of clean up afterwards.
Yeah.
And then...
Is that sexist?
But here's the thing.
Cleaning up?
Then... often these companies are going through struggles from whatever the crisis is, and so then they are fired because they aren't shepherding the company in the correct direction after a certain amount of time, and then usually a man is put into position of power, and they are set. It's like after a period of time where whatever the organization is turmoil is going through has reached its kind of news cycle conclusion, etc., the woman who is brought in to clean it up, who failed to get the company going in the right direction, is fired, and then a man is brought in to bring the company back into profitability.
I see.
That's
interesting.
So maybe having a dynamic in which there are two people at the top can have shared responsibility, and that won't be the case. And we can have a woman who sits at the top of a huge entertainment industry company for a while, and that is significant as well, in terms of its significance for returning to gender positive practices at a company that has been discriminatory, as well as just in a large scale having more women in positions of power.
Yeah,
and normalizing that.
We've got
as not just a crisis aversion tactic.
So what do you think is going to be the outcome of this lawsuit?
I think they're going to pay through the nose. I don't know what else there is to do.
Right. The only possible outcome is they don't pay money or they do, right? I guess to put in binary terms, right?
So it's whether they pay a lot of money or they settle down to an amount or they pay nothing. I think those are the three outcomes. And then the additional lawsuits for like the class action lawsuits from the shareholders, they'll have to pay more money. And eventually they'll have to downsize their staff because they can't do development. So maybe we'll have some baby blizzards come out of this where people are like, fuck this, I'm getting let go anyway. And we'll have more independent studios. But, you know, I don't fully know what Blizzard's financial stakes are. They seem to invest really heavily into Overwatch League. And then that heavy investment has kind of retreated, and they've been depending on outside influxes of money from like teams buying in and things like that, but not necessarily keeping the load financially. So I think that will.
And another big thing is World of Warcraft, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, MMO. Is losing its player count to Final Fantasy XIV by the droves now. Maybe in some cases related to this lawsuit, but a lot of the big streamers who have been playing World of Warcraft for a long time have decided to switch over to FF14, which is really interesting to know. Like, so much so that Final Fantasy XIV they had to stop selling their game for a little bit because they couldn't handle the server load, which is really crazy. So WoW is losing a lot of subscribers, and so that's definitely eating at the bottom line for Blizzard as well. Who knows what's going on with Overwatch 2? I don't really know. And then Diablo 2 is coming out at some point, or maybe it's already out. I don't know.
Diablo 4 is also just lost its lead. He resigned, walked away. The namesake for Jesse McCree, the Overwatch character, whose name is Jesse McCree, the game designer, he's left Blizzard, Activision. So
it's not looking good. Maybe now's the time to buy stock. Or would you wait a little bit? Hey, someone's got to profit off this.
I would wait.
Yeah, I would
until
wait until
after the shareholder stock.
Right. So it's not looking good for them, and there's a lot of incriminating evidence, and it's either going to go the way of California state lawsuit, or it's going to go Blizzard's way if they've hired the right lawyers. Who knows? Yvonne, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do as a consumer? What can you do?
Boy, this is difficult. I love McCree, the character. A gunslinging, point and click shoot.
Talking about High Noon.
It's interesting to see the dynamic that Jesse McCree's namesake posted one of the most vulgar messages in the like Cosby Suite group chat, but is voiced by Matt Mercer, who is one of like the most beloved internet celebrities that we have. I don't know. I really love Overwatch. I've invested a lot of time and energy into it. I haven't been really playing video games at all, so I guess I can just keep going with that until I see kind of where it is. In terms of playing new shooters, it's difficult. You know, those two, Call of Duty and Overwatch, are the main shooters that I played because they were so they epitomized the exact game experiences that I wanted from those two styles of games, right?
Yeah.
The quick turnaround, kill, respawn, go again, and the tactical team-based environment. I really am not at all interested in playing like Valorant. So
What
I don't
about
know.
Halo Infinite?
I could play Halo.
It's
I
gonna
have the
be
Master
free to
Chief
play.
Collection, and I enjoy that. So that
Halo
sounds
Infinite, man. It's coming out.
that sounds like the option. We'll see when that comes out.
A lot of people played the beta and they really liked it, so I'm excited for that game. I guess what you can do is the most impactful thing that you can do is just not buy the new Call of Duty. But I would say, of course, it is the most it's the most sold, or the top selling game of the year consistently. It's consistently in like the top 5 selling games every year, and they measure that based off of like 3 months of sales. So that's so crazy. It comes out in November or like October every year, and with 3 months of sales, it becomes the most sold game every year. It's consistently in the top 5. So that's really interesting. Call of Duty's, of course, the most popular. They haven't missed a year since like 2004 or something, or whenever Call of Duty 2 came out. So they're selling a lot of games. So
Yeah.
And the problem is, or maybe not the problem, I don't know if it's necessarily a problem, but 90%, like 80% of the people who buy Call of Duty don't even know what's going on with this lawsuit. So I don't know if that's relevant information, but it's probably true, right? A 14-year-old boy probably is not looking into the financial the financial reportings of Activision Blizzard and their lawsuits. So and those are the types of people who buy these games, which is not a, who knows. If you enjoy playing these games, like I said earlier, I mean, there's still people, there's still pure people at this company. Like the people, their entire livelihood, right, is being a game developer, and if they did nothing wrong, I don't know if they would necessarily lose their job over this lawsuit, but I hope no one who didn't do anything loses their job over this. That would really suck. If because Jalen Brack and whatever that other guy's name is touched all the ladies, if they lose if the person, the person who designs the rocks in Call of Duty, if that person loses their job and they did nothing, that would really suck. So I hope everyone's all right who gets affected by this. Yvonne, that was just for me. I'm sorry. I need to do that because that's just how I do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Hungover Podcast. I'm going to say that I'm really happy that we got to do one this week, Yvonne. This is exciting. You know how we talk about what we like to do? Let's do that now, Yvonne.
Okay.
What have you been up to? You've been working a lot, but tell me if you've done anything other than just work and sleep and eat.
When was the last time we talked?
I saw you in New Orleans.
Yes.
That was like 5 weeks ago at this point.
Wait, that wasn't 5 weeks ago. That was what, the 30?
3 weeks ago. It was
the 31st or the 24th?
It was 14 days ago. It's the 14th. I was there the 1st. Or I was there until the 1st. I got there on the 29th, and so I probably saw you on the 30th or the 31st.
There we go. Then the week before that, I worked... No. The week before that was fine. And the week before that, I worked, what was it? 12 times 6. Let's do the math.
72.
Plus whatever.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
72.
Yeah. I worked 72 hours that week. Plus or minus 8 hours. Plus, more plus than minus. So between... all of the weeks, I have worked an incredibly ridiculous amount of hours. I am truly enjoying my time. That's what Disney has told me that I need to say. I'm just kidding.
Oh god.
Disney doesn't listen to this.
Fucking Mickey Mouse. He's always Mickey Mouse is always listening. Don't worry.
So, what have I been doing? I have been doing a lot. You came down. We talked for a night, and then we went our separate ways. I listened to some jazz also that weekend.
Great, man.
Then, like a couple weekends later, I went to Buffalo to visit my mom for her birthday. That was a nice time. I have not been watching too much stuff. I feel like I watched a couple new programs, but I got recently back into The Sopranos because
Sweet.
on YouTube I kept getting the like Sopranos clips, and I was like, I'm gonna watch a couple of these at work because I'm feeling stressed. And I love how Anthony could just express his anger and nobody could do anything to him because he was the boss.
You gotta watch Video Game Donkey's video about the Sopranos video game. I don't know if you know who Video Game Donkey is. I assume
I do. We have been friends for a long time.
I love it. The video, it's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life. It's great. Anyways, keep going.
I forgot that there was a Sopranos video game.
You can beat someone up with a pork chop in it. It's the most Sopranos video game ever.
So, that's been going down. Haven't been playing a lot of video games. Did get to play a little bit of Mario Party or Mario Golf.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been fun.
They just added a new update to that game. I don't know if that's when you played it, but they added
I
a
played
new
it
mode.
a few weeks ago.
They added a new mode and ranked online matches, which is pretty cool.
I think I played it the week after we discussed you playing it on the podcast.
It's fun.
So, but that's even been some time. Usually, here's my schedule. Wake up, get everything together, feed the cats, leave, go to work, then work 12 hours, come back home, cook and or eat what Laura has cooked, then chat with Laura for an hour and a half, and then go to sleep. Rinse and repeat. Sick. 5 to 6 times a week. And then on the weekend, do all of the things. This morning, I had to go to the recycling center.
You gotta do
and drop off
chores.
all the recycling.
Jeez, why? It's like you and I have a very similar schedule, except I try to stream also for like an hour every night. Because I've also been working a lot of hours.
Yeah. Some 10-hour days for both of the boys. It's really listen, 10-hour days I can handle a lot better than 12-hour days repeatedly. 12-hour days are like that's the only thing you do for that day. 10-hour days I've always felt like I can get one other thing accomplished. So being able to stream is like that's a big energy effort, and combining that, I think that's like the energy. One thing.
Big dick energy right here. Let's go. Please tune into my stream and follow me. I swear to God.
But I have been reading more books.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to take a step away from consuming so much screen time, since my eyes are like 10 to 12 hours at a computer all day at work.
On a computer. So that's tough. I would do the same if that was my job. I don't blame you.
I used to be able to like do that and then come home and play video games, but like that was when I didn't have a girlfriend.
Anymore.
So now like going to play video games isn't acceptable. So what I have to do is be like, no, I want to read. Don't you want to read your book?
Let's sit in the living room silent and read together.
How can we make this a time when I can recuperate energy and you don't, and it's not just you haven't talked to anybody all day, so you need to talk to me for as much as possible for the next 2 hours.
Oh man,
it did get me into trouble though. I like opened up one of my books the first night that this was going down, and I got pretty well sternly talking to.
Jeez. All right. Sorry. Man,
That's
Laura
it was
behind
okay.
closed doors. All right. Well, okay.
It was okay. I understood where she was coming from, and we've worked out a pretty decent balance now, so it's all
Nice.
good. Our strength of our relationship is communicating, and communicating to you, our audience, what our relationship is like. So,
Well, that's exciting.
luckily, Laura doesn't listen to this podcast, so there's no way that she'll ever
hear this at all. No way.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So I've been reading a book about salt. I don't know if I talked to you about it, but
Yeah,
it's
you have.
fucking incredible. I finished that book. Then I started a physical book on Genghis Khan, it's exciting.
Nice.
Genghis Khan is one of the more interesting people in history that I have known periphery information about, but didn't know a lot about him. So now I'm reading a biography about him.
He's one of the most famous people in history, and I feel like no one knows anything about him, really, except for this book.
Yeah, it
And what
was
they showed in
interesting
Mulan.
to hear about like how he fought and united the people of the steppes. Apparently they weren't all Mongols. Mongols just was the tribe that he came from, so it became the dominant peoples. But eventually, when he united everyone, he called them the people of the fur tents, or fur line tents or something
All
like
those
that, or felt
oxen,
tents.
huh?
Super cool. This guy's just like,
Whatever they say.
I'm gonna bring everybody together in one big family, and then we're gonna go invade China.
Is Mongolia? I know nothing about that country. Is it communist? Just like China? Has communism made its way there?
Communism was there when the Soviet Union had
course.
a heavy presence in the area.
Do you think
I
it's-
actually know very little about the modern political structure of Mongolia.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, not a big player anymore on the global stage. So I'm not quite sure how they operate.
They just like their what is it? What milk do they drink?
Mongolian barbecue.
Yeah, well, that's great stuff. I they just eat a lot of lamb, I know, and what is it? I think it's more Tibetan. It's buttermilk, right? That's Tibetan, I think.
They
which
also
always-
do
I assume they
fermented
similar.
horse milk.
Ooh, oh, I guess they eat a lot of horse as well, which I hear is very
They do
tasty.
eat horse.
There's a lot of horses.
I have most likely eaten horse or donkey in Istanbul, and I could tell
Nice.
you, I found it to be delicious.
I'm sure it is. I don't see why not.
It's particularly when I was drunk.
Big old animal. A lot of meat on it.
Yes. So I also started listening to the audiobook, and I'm 17 hours in, and now I'm hooked. At least on one storyline, not all of the storylines, but
Nice.
of the Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, who is like the big to-do in fantasy novel writing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Super prolific dude, and he writes all of his books kind of in this big universe. So he's the Brandon Sanderson book universe, the BSBU, as I'm calling it.
Okay. Coined here on the
and-
Hungover Podcast.
And it's pretty interesting so far. It's one of those books that would most likely be better to read like in the physical form, where there's lots of names and it's a fantasy world that has a lot of detail in it. So in order to like see what people's names are and everything, it's most likely better to read physically.
Mm-hmm.
But as I commute half an hour every day to and from work, it's nice to do that. And then when I'm doing chores around the house or whatever, when I get to walk every once in a while. Although I have been taking a 15-minute walk at work. So
Nice.
I leave,
That's
take
healthy.
15 minutes to walk. And that has increased my step count for the year like tremendously. I also, Julian, am going to get swole because I bought a barbell and a lat pull-down system
Oh,
and
that's game-changer, dude.
a rack.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Personal gym. You're just
So
gonna
yeah,
leave it
I
there?
am, man. No, I'm also going to need to get a hitch for my car because we also bought a mattress.
Is
Because
that what's
Laura didn't
behind
like
you?
the mattress that we were. No, this is the
The
replacement.
old.
This is the old mattress.
Yeah. Okay. Sick.
So
If you
yeah,
are
I've got
listening
a
to the
lot
audio
of stuff to leave.
podcast, if you're listening to the audio podcast, tune in on YouTube to see this mattress behind Yvonne. It is truly monumental. Great mattress.
Queen size, you might even say.
That's awesome.
Uh,
New mattress.
Yeah, I'm
New
playing
barbells.
soccer still, so
Soccer.
I'm going to start lifting at 5 a.m. before I can go to work, and that'll be great.
Okay.
Roll out of bed, lift some shit, go to work.
Put things down, lift them up. Sounds like an exhilarating time, Yvonne. I'm so excited.
It's literally
for
what you do every day.
you. I'm so excited for you. I can't even fathom doing that. Oh man. What a lifestyle. What a lifestyle.
Yeah,
Come
what's
on.
up with you?
Me, last time we are on the podcast, I don't even remember what happened. So I guess I'll just I've been trying to stream a lot more, so I'm playing games, but I'm playing too many games because I try to play. Let's see. I've been playing Yakuza 4 I beat, Yakuza 3 I beat. I'm on Yakuza 5 now. This game series is really cool. I highly suggest anyone. I mean, it's really accessible now as well. You can get it on PC, you can get it on Xbox, you can get it on PlayStation. The entire series, Yakuza 0 through 6. I made it to 5. 5, besides Yakuza 0, which was made more recently, Yakuza 5 is definitely my favorite. It's super cool. The combat is really super fun, and there's like the story is so cool. I really like that series. I won't spoil any of it, but like it's so cool to be able to play such a long series that has a continuous storyline throughout all of it. Like I've played this game series.
It's a continuous storyline?
Yeah, Yakuza 0 through 6 is one story. Well, it's like a sequel story. You know, they all have their contained storylines, but like it continues
I'm
on.
impressed.
It's so cool. It goes from the 80s, from Yakuza 0 to I believe like 2010. It's crazy.
Wow.
Or maybe
That's
like
impressive.
2015. I don't know when Yakuza 6 came out, but it's Kiryu's storyline the entire time, and like I'm super attached to this character now, and it's like Metal Gear Solid, man. The storyline goes all the way through, and I think it is very complex, but it's way more palatable than Metal Gear Solid's storyline, I will say. So you could just watch like a YouTube video about it that explains the whole story. But I think these games are absolutely worth playing, so I suggest you go pick them up. They're really fun, pretty easy to get into. The gameplay isn't very complex or anything, and it's just a all-around really wacky, super fun game franchise. So I suggest it. I also have been playing Final Fantasy XIV due to the suggestion of Captain Vidya on my Twitch channel. That game is, I've never played an MMO before, but this game is super cool. I mean, maybe it's just standard bog MMO stuff, but I find it really fun. It's, you know, you have all these missions. You can play it for free entirely up until I think level 60, and until you get to basically the first expansion. So I'm having a lot of fun, and I haven't spent a single dollar on it, and that's pretty cool. I've played, I don't know, 20, 30 hours so far. So that's a fun game. I've been chipping away at Final Fantasy VII, still trying to get that platinum trophy, of course. And then my Twitch channel also hit the community goal of making me play through Demon's Souls. So I'm playing through that game.
It looked cool.
That game
it looked
is
exactly
really good.
like
Dark Souls, but Dark Souls looks exactly like Demon's Souls. It's singular possessive demon. I don't know why. Really cool game. Bosses are a lot easier than I thought they would be, so I'm a little confused, but it's exhilarating.
Maybe you're just too good, Julian.
Yeah,
have you ever thought of that?
Got too good at the game. What else have I been up to, man? I've been trying. I mean, I'm still learning to code as well. So my co-founder of our company, we're chipping away at it. We may have a product to launch soon. We'll see.
Ooh.
Things are. I'll announce that on the podcast when, of course, we will sponsor our podcast. It'll be sick.
I'm gonna expect to see some of those checks.
Yeah, I'll send you a check, of course, and then send myself a check. First sponsor of the podcast. Let's see. Otherwise, from that, I've been working super hard. I'm not very happy at my job right now anymore. There's a lot of mismanagement, and I don't have any sort of benefits or retirement plans, so it's not really looking like a long-term situation for me. I've learned all I can, I think, really from them. I don't really see... I mean, obviously, it's called honing your craft, right? You get better as you do it for longer, but I don't really see a reason to get better at butchering. I'm already pretty proficient, and like
you're as good as you need to be to do other things.
And I don't really see what I feel like I've learned all I can, really. So I'm working on moving on from the job. I was very close to quitting yesterday. Holy shit, I got this close to quitting. I had a really shitty customer come in. It wasn't because of him, but I've been thinking about how to transition out of this job for a while. I was going to bring my manager aside, but then for some reason we had a weird conversation at work. Not like a bad conversation or anything, but he literally asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, what the fuck does this mean? And it totally threw me off. We got in a whole conversation about why I stopped doing chemistry. It's more of I haven't stopped doing chemistry or working in chemistry. I want to go back. I just wanted to take a break. So that's why I sort of got into the service industry and cooking and all that stuff. But then the pandemic sort of fucked everyone up. So I couldn't become a chef or cook on a line or anything. It just didn't really make any sense. And I don't really want to do that at all, realistically. That's not what I want to do with my life. But we just got in a whole conversation about that, and then it was like a nice conversation. He's a good guy. I like my manager, but I couldn't bring myself to then have him go downstairs and leave, and then bring him aside like, hey, I want to quit. So it just didn't. Like I had to read.
That was his ploy, right? The whole time.
I mean? Yeah, I know. I had to read the tea leaves and do it when it's the right time, So I'm gonna wait on that. But this customer that I had come in, oh my god, this guy was such a dick. Holy shit. It sucks to work in the service industry on the Upper West Side. Oh my god. He called the shop, right? I pick up. Hudson Charles, Upper West Side. And he said, hey guys, do you guys have chicken thighs? I'm like, yes, we have chicken thighs. And then he said, hey, sorry, you're breaking up. Do you guys have chicken thighs? And I just said, yes, we have chicken thighs. And then he said, oh, okay. Pregnant pause, literally this long. And then I said, okay, bye. I just hung up because I have a million other things to do. There's a customer in front of me. I have to finish breaking down this box of chicken for like 15 chicken orders that I have in front of me. So I'm like, okay, bye.
And you're blindfolded.
Yeah, and I'm blindfolded, and I have two knives in my hand. It's crazy. This is exactly how I work. So it's like you can't just say, "Oh, okay," and then not say anything else after that. But like that's fine. That was the end of that. And then he comes in. He's this tall guy. I don't know. He looked pretty. It was pretty hot outside. Maybe I don't know. He comes over to me and I said, "Hey, how are you? How can I help you today?" And then he's like, "Were you the guy I just talked on the phone about chicken thighs? Were you that rude guy who talked to me on the phone?" I was like, I don't even know how to respond to that, honestly. If you're just going to confront me about that, were you that rude guy? Am I supposed to say no or yes? So I said yes. And then he's like,
I would have said no. I thought that was you.
Either way, it comes off as me being sarcastic or whatever and being a dick. So he's like, yeah, you were very rude. And I'm like, okay, what do you want me to say? Fucking sorry and suck your dick? We have chicken thighs, all right, bro? And he's like, well, I don't want... You don't need to be so rude, all right? I'm like, do you want the chicken thighs or not, bro? Fucking, can we end this stupid conversation you're having? Do you want me to just be fired or something? Like, what do you want? What do you want the outcome?
What is the end goal?
Do you want the chicken thighs or not? And then he calls over my coworker Jack. He's like, I don't want to be served by you. Can he's like tries to get Jack's attention, who's helping another customer. It's like, all right, I don't care anymore. So, and he's like, your coworker over there is a real asshole. I don't want to be talked like I'm the asshole in this situation. He's like, can you help me? I'm like, oh my god, this guy. And so what I did, I was partying some chicken wings. And then I finished my job. And then when I go downstairs and we had to break down a lamb throughout the day. So I bring up the lamb and I'm like, I take off the lamb's head. I was like looking at him the whole time. I take off the lamb's head and then like slam it on the table. And then I go over and help this old woman who's also in the shop. I'm incredibly nice to her, and then she's like, "Oh, Sonny, can you help me with the door?" I'm like, "Of course I can help you with the door. I'm such a nice guy." So I don't know. I just tried to get in his face. I'm like, "Fuck you, dick. You don't need to."
Oh man,
service industry, man. Am I right? Anyways, Yvonne, I can't stand people on Upper West Side.
I truly don't understand the idea of like what would possess somebody to be so confrontational with somebody who's going to serve them.
You don't have to be this way. And also, I literally just told you we had chicken thighs and you didn't, like, you were so distracted with what you were doing that you couldn't like be bothered to think about the other person on the line. I don't know, whatever. I don't care about that person anymore. He's out of my life.
Chicken thigh guy is a dickhead.
Yeah, he's a dick. Anyways, guys. Stupid lawsuit. Goddamn. Vaughn.
Yeah.
This was an exhilarating podcast. Thank you so much for doing it with me. I know you work 900 hours a day, so I hope you get some time off soon and maybe get to travel somewhere. I don't know.
December. That's my
traveling's
next time
back.
Off.
Really?
I might try to go watch a football game in Kansas City in October for my birthday. Wow. They have an outdoor stadium there, so it feels like okay, but that is going to be an expensive trip because the Kansas City Chiefs are a really good team, and every single seat that's being sold there is like $300 for the cheapest seat. So I have to figure out what I want to do.
I hope you get to do what you want to do. And also, I hope everyone has a great day and gets what they want from the day. Yvonne, It's been a great podcast. Maybe we'll have another one next week. We'll see.
I should be available.
All right, everyone,
All right.
have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye.